Welcome, TCB faithful, to yet another episode of The Runback, the Global Defense Agency approved series that asks the question, was this fighting game any good? But jumping into the flagship dimension to make sure we have enough time to take a closer look.
This battle isn't yours to win.
It's a little forced, but it works. Well, I guess the more accurate description would be, is this game any good? Because today we're covering the very recently released game, starring everyone's ironically named superhero. Invincible, who takes so much punishment that his name might as well be...
We know why he survived all this stuff. Don't come after us, Invincible fans, it was just a joke. Anyway, we've been covering this game since we were allowed to participate in the second alpha test, and we had various opinions about it, both positive and negative. That's why we always took things with a grain of salt, because the game was very much still in development.
But now the game is out, and we took the weekend to let it sink in. That's a little faster than what we would normally do for these reviews, but we played this so much already that it streamlined the process this time. So, can Invincible vs. stand with the genre's heavyweights, or is it just another civilian caught in the crossfire?
This is Team Crossbody, and this is our...
Hey, hold on to your seats.
At a glance, Invincible Versus is going to feel very familiar, especially if you spent time with games like Marvel vs. Capcom 3. You've got a magic series, launchers, air combos, assists, push blocks, snapbacks, all the usual versus fighting game staples are here. But once you get past that surface level, the game starts to lean much closer to something like Killer Instinct. Not in how it looks, but in how it thinks. The real focus is on system design, player interaction, and constant decision making. And more than anything else, this game is built around one core idea. You are meant to use your entire team. Constantly.
Combos are extremely freeform. You can route things in a lot of different ways and get pretty creative with how you structure your offense. But there's a catch. Every combo is governed by a combo meter, and once that meter fills up, the opponent drops out, no exceptions. So while the system looks open-ended, it's quietly putting the ceiling over how far you can actually take things. That ceiling isn't there just to hold you back, it's there to push you towards everything else the game has to offer.
If you want to keep a combo going, you can't just rely on your point character. You have to start pulling in the rest of your toolkit. Assists are the first layer of that. You've got your standard assists, which are quick, low commitment, and doesn't hit very hard, but it helps stabilize your combo and even shaves down the combo meter a bit, giving you a little more room to work with. Then there are active assists. These hit much harder and are used during offense, but they come in with a trade-off. Not only do they take longer to come back, they actually push the combo meter closer to its limit instead of easing it. You can also burn some EX meter on boost dash cancels to buy yourself more time mid-combo. It's a more direct way of extending things, and it gives you a noticeable refund on the meter. But again, you're spending a resource to do it. All this helps, but none of it's the main answer.
That answer is tagging. Tagging isn't just a way to switch your characters. It's the system the entire game revolves around. When you bring in a new character mid-combo, they don't just pick up things where you left off. They also refund a chunk of the combo meter, giving you real room to extend your damage. On top of that, tagging naturally rotates your team and immediately gives your incoming character access to EX meter they can actually spend. So instead of sitting on the sidelines waiting to recover, your team is constantly cycling in and out, always ready to contribute. What this means in practice is pretty simple. If you're not tagging, you're leaving damage on the table. The game doesn't just encourage team play, it quietly demands it.
With how strong offense can get, it makes sense if the game gives you ways to push back. If someone's on top of you, you can spend a little bit of EX meter on a push block to create some space and reset the situation. It's simple, but it gets the job done, at least until your opponent can start anticipating it. If you want something a little more assertive, you've got heroic strikes. These act as guard cancels that cut through pressure and force your opponent off of you, though they come at a steeper cost. But all that is about preventing a bad situation. What happens if you're already in one?
That's where the assist breakers come in. They let you break out of a combo by calling in a teammate to interrupt it, but this is a very much you pay what you get kind of mechanic. You're not just spending meter here, you're taking a chunk off your partner's health and turning it into recoverable damage, which becomes a real problem if they're forced into the fight later. On top of that, your assists are locked out for a significant amount of time afterwards. So yes, you can escape the combo, but it's also putting yourself into a more fragile position going forward. It's a powerful option, but one that can absolutely backfire if you rely on it too much.
The most interesting layer though comes from how the game handles its core combo break. Instead of giving you a traditional burst, Invincible Versus ties that entire idea to tagging. With counter tags, you can intercept an incoming character during a tag attempt and shut the whole sequence down. It's a strong defensive option, but it's not guaranteed. The attacker can play around it. They may slightly delay their timing, just enough to throw off your response and catch you trying to counterattack too early. Or they can go for an assist fit, briefly slowing things down and recovering in time to punish your attempt. And if you bite on the wrong option, you're the one eating the punish. So what you end up with isn't a simple escape mechanic. It's a back and forth interaction where both players are making reads in the middle of a combo.
By tying combo breaks directly into tagging, the game creates a clearer moment where both players expect something to happen. You're not just guessing in the dark, you're waiting for a specific interaction, and so is your opponent. It also smooths out a problem some people had with Killer Instinct. Well, it smooths out a problem Final Boosh had with Killer Instinct, where getting your combo broken could feel a bit out of your hands. Here, everything is more grounded, you can see it coming, and you can play around it. Most importantly, it keeps you both engaged. Even when you're getting hit, you're still making decisions.
That said, the combo meter does come with a downside. There's clearly depth in the system, characters have unique routes, and there's room for optimization, but the meter can make that effort feel a little constrained. A lot of the time, going for more complex routes doesn't feel significantly more rewarding than just sticking to something simple and reliable. Now, that might be the point. By limiting how far combos can go, the game might be trying to kite players to use the tag system more, or make successful extensions feel more deliberate and earned. But right now, it's one of those elements that feels a bit up in the air.
Even this early on, the gameplay has a strong sense of identity. It's a game where nearly every powerful option comes with some kind of risk, or at the very least, a cost you have to think about. You're constantly weighing decisions, whether it's extending a combo, spending resources, or trying to call out your opponent mid-sequence. And a lot of that tension comes from how the systems overlap. The combo meter limits you, tag and extends you, and counter tag sits somewhere in the middle, turning every combo to a potential mind game. It's still early on, so it's hard to say exactly where things will land, but if the game continues to build on this foundation, it's shaping up to be something pretty interesting.
Here's some additional assorted thoughts we took away while playing, but it doesn't really fit anywhere else. Standing lights still hit mid. We still don't like it. We still think it makes the game look and play a little more mashy than we like, but I'm sure there's a design intention in there somewhere that we're just not seeing, I guess.
We said it during our beta impressions, and it's not shocking to anyone. Adam, Eve, Robot, and Cecil Assists are hands down the best in the game. There's a lot of reward for not nearly enough risk involved with them. It's not a coincidence that these moves are attached to 3 of the more difficult characters in the game.
Well, Robot isn't that hard of a character per se, and Cecil's a little more tricky, but that's more about him being a zoner in a game filled with armor, neutral, skipping moves. So it's actively working against him, which I'm positive was a complete accident. Let's just say 3 of the more unique characters.
On the positive note, although the game visually looks like it's filled with a bunch of Invincible clones and a good grip of guys in white jumpsuits floating around punching each other, which isn't the dev's fault, that's more on the source material, at the very least my mind is at ease knowing they actually play differently.
Let's take a look at the 4 cult members I was worried about going in. Lucan is essentially a grappler, having the only true command grab special move in the game. Anissa is currently a weaker but much faster version of Invincible, focusing on pressure and mix-ups, instead of gorillaing across the arena with his lariat. Thula focuses on controlling neutral with long-range buttons. And Conquest is a little derivative, but hey, he shits damage and currently has an infinite, so I guess that makes him unique.
I like Elemental a lot. She fits really well with the Invincible cast. She has an odd moveset that reminds me of Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat, with her little rot summon thing. You know, before they decided to keep attacking the Ice Clone.
Why did you guys think it was so funny when Junior ripped me apart in Rio stream? Yo, Junior's like, yo, this nigga Madsen makes Sub-Zero look OD. The problem is Tom Brady. Sub-Zero is top. Tom Brady is ass. Yo, my nigga, my nigga. You know how Junior is.
She has a good mix of long-range buttons and projectiles, and unlike Cecil, who has to sit there and guess which armored freight train's gonna blow past his game plan next, at least Ella has a moves that break armor.
One thing I'm shocked about with Invincible Versus is just how little there is to do outside of playing online. Yeah, grinding online suits us here at TCP just fine, but because this is Invincible, a pretty big IP, there wasn't any doubt that this wasn't going to bring in a bunch of casual players. So it shocks me that there seemingly wasn't any attention paid in this area. From what we're looking at right now, the game only has 2 modes, story and arcade. I guess you can throw the tutorial in there as well since it technically counts too. Let's start there.
Putting that demigod video we made aside, the tutorial isn't nearly as vague and complex as they made it out to be.
Well, duh.
Although it's not the most exciting thing to be dragged through, it's very boilerplate. If you surely aren't familiar with the game's mechanics or just versus fighting games in general, it'll teach you everything you need to know about what Invincible Versus has to offer, at least enough to send you on your way. I feel Invincible Versus is best learned on the go, under trial by fire, since it seems more focused on player engagement rather just running through static techniques.
Each section of the guide starts with an okayish explanation of the mechanics you're trying to learn, although they should have had players do things like counter tags and assist breakers multiple times, instead of just once and then moving on. It isn't a big deal, you can just re-enter the lesson once it's finished, but it's just a little strange how they make you do some things 3 times, and then only once for other, in my opinion, more important mechanics. Arcade mode is what you would expect. Fight through a series of matches, all while making sure to be as efficient as possible to rack up points for a good final score. After that, whoever was the first character chosen gets the arcade ending tool. There's not much here outside of grinding for a higher score and the endings though. There's not even a final boss or anything. It's pretty uneventful.
That includes the actual ending for these characters as well. They're all independent from the main story mode of the game, but outside of a couple of noteworthy ones, they're pretty much just telling you what you already know about the characters if you've been following the series. I don't get why they went with this route. This game was designed for fans of the comic, and more importantly, the show. So stuff like Nolan being the Shredder to both Viltrum and Earth, but still loving his son, is nothing new. Pro tip, don't bother with the Viltrum homeworld characters, because they all have some variation of the same statement. Viltrum is awesome, we're awesome, let's go conquer some stuff.
While the presentation of these is solid, why didn't they take the chance to really get into the heads of these characters a little more? Maybe pull a Mortal Kombat and give us some what if scenarios, or even hit at future events that haven't happened in the show yet, but through the perspective of the character telling the ending. That will work as both a nod to the comic readers and a surprise for people just following the show. Then, if something similar happens later, they can look back and go, oh, that's what that character was talking about. Stuff like that would have made this way more rewarding to go through with every character.
That brings us to the actual narrative of Invincible Versus. Don't worry, we won't spoil anything here. The game is still new after all. What I will say that these events vaguely take place around the end of Season 3. That's really the only point in Invincible's plot that justifies all the happenings and goings on here without too much explanation. But if you're used to licensed fighting games and how they typically present a story, where you have to fight a bunch of the roster made up of major, minor, currently inactive, or straight up dead characters, then nothing here is going to surprise you, outside of who the big bad is that's making this all happen.
Because the roster is so small, be prepared to fight a lot of the same characters more than once, especially the 3 they clearly push into the main roster so there'll be more strong bad guys to punch. You know who they are, outside of Nolan. Good thing this whole thing is pretty short, clocking in at about 40 minutes, with some people taking around an hour and change to complete it. Now, I heard through the grapevine that the length of the story mode is a problem for some people, and that even caused a few refunds from my understanding. I'm exaggerating here of course, but it's like they expected this to be an entire 8-hour season's worth of content or something. It's strange. Is it as long as Mortal Kombat story mode? No. I mean, look at the game. Do you really think they had the budget or dev time for something that long? Is it Street Fighter 6? No. Sadly, this doesn't have a jank, poorly optimized, crappy beat-em-up mode attached to pad things off for hours. No, what we got is an admittedly pretty bland and predictable story that at least feels close to the show, since it's in collaboration with the main people behind both the show and the comic, who, by the way, kept saying in interviews and the like that the length was just about the size of a normal episode of Invincible, which, against their better judgment, is an hour show for some reason. And it features some of the best fight scenes the series has had in any form up to this point.
And that's the main draw. Not the length, not the story, but watching these characters be badass for a little while. Seriously, I don't excuse the show's sometimes sprite comic style animation, but since this wasn't held back by the painstaking, time-consuming nature of 2D animation, the 3D team they used for this mode went absolutely ham. I got to see these characters fight in ways I've never really seen before, and that alone is worth it in my book. It's quick, it's filled with cool as hell scenes, it's animated like the Spider-Verse movies, and then it gets out of the way so you get back to the fighting game. It's completely fine as is. And judging by how things ended, and how the whole thing feels like it was coded with future updates in mind, we might be getting additional content down the line. So quit your bitching!
There's not much to say about the online in this game. It works fine enough. I think the indicators lie a little bit, but outside of that, the netcode is good. Lots of Wi-Fi fuckers out there though. I haven't played online a whole lot, however, and that's mostly because of the casuals currently infesting it with said Wi-Fi, and worst of all, the rage quitting, which is still an absolute problem. So instead of pulling my bare haired out trying to fight through all that nonsense, I'm just gonna wait until the casuals leave in about 2 weeks or so, leaving the actual players behind. Then I can get better connections and better competition in general without dealing with 2 weeks full of mashers and complaints from people bitching about this being a fighting game, even though they brought it knowing it was.
Invincible Versus is not perfect. Not even a little. Hell, we argue to say it's not even good as a product. For a game that bends over backwards for casuals on the surface, to the point of having pretty unintuitive controls, only to turn around and virtually have no offline mode to speak of, forcing them to play online, which in turns make them angry and leads to rage quits, ultimately making the experience worse for the people who actually want to learn the game. It's not only stupid, it's contradictory. Because, once again, it doesn't matter how easy you make these fighting games, casual players will never be happy with anything. I'm not blaming them for bashing or even refunding the game, but if it had solid offline game modes, then it wouldn't have good word of mouth. And that's what brings in casuals, other casuals saying the game is good. I'm sure charging $10 for skins, especially for something as retarded as Shirtless Conquest, doesn't help either.
But as a fighting game, yeah, there's a lot to like about Invincible Versus. Is it perfect on this end? No, not here either. But what we currently have is a solid foundation. It's just messy right now, which is the case for a lot of new fighting games. The release version is always going to be the worst. But the mechanics are interesting and unique enough for this to stand out in the current sea of tag team based fighters. In all though, if you're into fighting games and looking for something different to play, Invincible Versus has enough depth to keep you busy for a while, if you can get past its annoying babyfied outer shell. I guess this game is a little like a Wonder Ball. Remember Wonder Balls? Anyway, another hurdle is the price tag. $50 is a bit steep for a game that's lacking a considerable amount of polish, as it feels incredibly janky to play at times. We here at TCB give Invincible Versus a 6.5 out of 10. Don't be mistaken, there's a good game here, it's just buried under a lot of issues. Unless you're here for the long haul, maybe wait until a sale or something.
But what are your thoughts? Leave a comment and let us know. Make sure you leave a like as well, and most importantly, help us finally reach 1,000 subscribers. We're less than 112 away by the time of this video. Until then, we'll see you next time on The Runback.
Buddy. All right.